Welcome to the Autonomic Homeostasis Activation Podcast. I'm Tom Pals.
And I'm Ruth Lorensson. We'll be unpacking what it looks like to activate your brain to holistically manage stress and trauma to facilitate homeostasis.
Being free to experience wellness in body, mind, and spirit.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started. Well, hello, Tom.
Hi, Ruth.
Looking forward to
and
this.
Hello, listeners.
Hello, listeners, of course. Looking forward to this conversation. Last time we talked about interoception and how important it was for homeostasis and the combination of interoception with homeostasis. That's what we were already talking about last time. And this time we're kind of extending it a little bit to the brain, the minds, and emotion.
Plural.
Plural. That's
Yes.
right. So that's kind of an interesting topic. We're talking about how emotions come into play with the brain and the mind, but also it's kind of interoception is how do we feel. So there's a bit of a mix here.
Oh,
and we're
absolutely.
going to really unpack it. So like, what are we talking about here? So why don't you kick us off? I'm really looking forward to unpacking how emotions play into this. So yeah, share about what is this?
Yeah.
The brain, the minds, and emotions.
Yes. So the traditional view, modern, is that emotions are functions of the way we think.
Yes.
Thought, feeling, behavior. It's just dominated everything.
And it's pretty linear, right?
Very linear.
So this is cognitive behavioral therapy often does this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rational
So it
emotive
starts with
behavior
your
therapy.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yep. And something happens, something is, and we have a thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a perception of it, ourselves and others. Then we have feelings that are the result of the way we are thinking about it. And then there are behaviors that are manifestations of the thoughts and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all very neat, very tidy, very predictable, very controllable. And unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, would that it were only that. But it's a whole lot more than that.
So it's not wrong,
No.
but it's not the whole picture.
No. It's like looking at the iceberg and saying the little piece on top is the iceberg. The majority of it isn't the little piece on top that you're seeing. It's all that stuff under the water.
In some ways, sometimes
Absolutely.
that can happen in that order.
Absolutely.
But what about the linear thing? Like, do you think things happen in a linear way, or is it just more circular?
It's more of. I just had this mental image of a steak on a plate as opposed to a gumbo. It's more the gumbo than the object distinctly on the plate.
Yeah,
It's just all mixed up.
It's all
together.
mixed up. And so this is what we're talking about. You know, I think, from that perspective, it's very much cognition first, then emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is actually it doesn't always work that way. And it's a lot more mixed up than that. It's not a lot more nuanced.
And I would say most of the time it doesn't work that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So share more about, like, why is it mixed? What's happening?
Yeah, because of interoception. So go back. Interoception is our sensory awareness of how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening from the skin in? Interoception. Exteroception is from the skin out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the outside here. That's exteroception. Interoception is from the skin in. How do I feel? What am I feeling? What is happening in my body? What is my body doing? Well, that's not just what's happening in my body. That's my sensory awareness of brain activity.
Mm. Yeah.
The brain's kind of in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, we've talked in past episodes, it's not just the brain that's in the skull. It's the part of the brain that's in the gut. And that's all brain. So with interoception, that's my sensory awareness of brain activity as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Antonio Damasio talks about brain activity and sensing that interoception, because it is a function, as best we can tell, of the right anterior insular cortex. Got the baseball mitt, we got the ball in the mitt, and in between the ball and the mitt is the insular cortex, which is the island in between. And that's the source of interoception, our sensory awareness. So literally, interoception is our sensory awareness, not just of the body, but of the brain activity as well.
Mm.
Hence consciousness. I sense that I am.
Exactly. Yeah. So with emotion, let's talk about emotions, because emotions can get a bad rap.
Oh.
Like, I've heard all sorts of
the ones we don't like, absolutely. The ones we like, oh, we're all about those.
I know. And I think I've heard some analogies before about how to treat your emotions, and like something like, your emotions are like a passenger in a car. You don't want them driving the car, but you don't want them in the trunk either. You want them in the back seat. And I don't know what I think about that, but I think we try and find these ways of talking about emotions. I don't really buy into the car analogy, but I think the point is that actually in this space, emotions, because they are in the mix, they can actually be incredibly beneficial to kind of highlight something that your brain wants to tell you, or kind of show you if you're having some like negative emotions, maybe. Do you not like that word?
Oh, I cringe.
I wish you were here, listeners. I feel like the shame of the
No, it's completely understandable, because that's the dominant paradigm. Okay. About emotions. There are positive emotions. There are negative emotions. There are emotions.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say, thank you for calling me out on that. But what I'm trying to say is that, and what we've talked about before actually, is that sometimes if you're in a tears or whatever, or you don't know what's going on, you can ask that question, how am I feeling? Like, what emotion am I feeling? Mm-hmm. And that can either point you to, like, is this beneficial or is this detrimental? So it's not necessarily that there's negative emotions and positive emotions, but they are like a guide. Emotions can be a guide to what is actually happening.
They have implications. Mm-hmm. That can be very beneficial or very detrimental. That doesn't make the emotion itself that.
Yes. So you could
the emotion just is.
Yeah. And like you could have, an emotion that we would deem negative emotion. And actually it could be an incredibly beneficial thing to have right now in your life, or, which is helping you heal, or like grief is one that people would, that's more kind of on the negative side, but it's incredibly beneficial.
If you don't grieve, you don't heal, and then you don't have hope.
Exactly.
So
unpack this for me, Tom. Like, talk about the role of emotions, and like not in a kind of, we want to embrace emotions in a healthy way. What's that look like?
We can either have emotions, or emotions have us. Take your pick. I'd rather have them than be had by them. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You hear the difference between the two? Emotions just are. They exist. They are our sensory awareness of how we feel. There are cognitive association emotions, and there are what are called visceral emotions. Mm-hmm. Emotions can be either or both at the same time. So, for example, have you ever had a moment where you felt emotion in your body?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like I've had times where how would I explain this? I feel like I've had that lump in my throat feeling.
That would be a great example. Or in the gut.
Yeah.
I
Or
just,
yeah,
oh my
butterflies
gut.
or
Yeah.
a stomach drop or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a heart racing.
Yeah. Those are emotions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are physiological in nature, but they're emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And we experience them as emotions, which is why you could describe your heart racing and associate it emotionally with anxiety, because it is. It's the physiological manifestation of emotion.
Yeah, so there's something physical happening that's not like just a biological thing. It's actually attached to something else that is you're feeling it in your body.
Yes.
So what are those about?
Those are what your brain is experiencing as emotion. So the title of the episode is The Brain Minds, plural, MINDS, not the brain, the mind, and emotions. It's the brain, minds, and emotions. Because as I like to say, the brain has a mind of its own. The brain can think. It processes information. We have such a hubris as human beings that we attribute to our conscious mind, our cognition, our thinking about things, an inordinate superiority to what the brain itself also does.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever had a eureka moment or an aha moment, which is where you've been trying to understand, like, I can't understand this, I can't figure this out, I can't remember something, and you stop, your brain takes over and continues the process, and then when it's arrived at an understanding, it brings it into your conscious awareness, and you go, oh, I know, or oh, I remember, or, right? Eureka! I understand. My body is like that ancient Greek person. My body is sinking down into the tub and the water is going up. I understand displacement. Sure. The person with their mind didn't think that. The person's brain with its mind thought that.
So we're coming back to something we've talked about a few times now, which I think is really fascinating. The brain has a mind of its own. The brain is thinking.
And it is
the
wise.
Relationship, it's really complicated, but this relationship with the mind thinking, the mind isn't always a bad thing at all, but it does have a propensity to filter through stress and trauma. So sometimes
personal experiences, what we've learned.
So when our minds can take over. So when our minds take over the thinking, the brain is still thinking, but we're not able to hear that thinking when the mind is,
or aren't listening for it.
Yes,
which doesn't mean we can't hear it. We're just not listening.
So one of the fascinating things is that this visceral emotion can be your brain trying to get your attention.
Probably is.
So again, I know for me, Tom, with those, I do have those visceral things like the lump in your throat, heart racing. And sometimes I try.
And interoception is your sensory awareness of that occurring.
Yes. And because it's so uncomfortable, those sensations, I have this habit of trying to avoid them. But more recently, especially with the lump in the throat feeling, I've realized that it's like a stuck emotion. That's what it feels like. And at that point, when I start feeling that, I do tend now, only because of the work that we've been doing, to ask my brain or say, oh, are you trying to tell me something?
Yes.
Like, what is going on? And usually those times where I'm getting those visceral emotions, this is just me, so it might not be for everyone, is because my mind is on overdrive. Like my mind has taken over, at least like in terms of listening. I'm only listening to my mind processing. And it's like I get these like, weeks go by where I'm like, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know what is wrong, blah, 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 and then I'm driving the car and I feel a lump in my throat and I go, oh, hang on a minute. There's something underneath this that only my brain's thinking will actually be able to kind of tell me.
And the reason it's thinking it is significant. We may not even know it. So when it comes to emotions and visceral emotion, somatic emotion, there is a spectrum of that. Some people are excruciatingly aware when they sense emotion in their body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that often is associated with trauma. Because their body was involved in the trauma, it remembers, the brain remembers that, it's embodied. The other side of that spectrum are those who are oblivious to what they're experiencing in their body. They don't have that sense of connection with interoception and what are they feeling in their body. They just don't sense it. That also can be trauma-based because I just don't want to be a part of my body and I'm not going to, and I'm tuned out because it's just too much information. So they don't have a sense of what they're feeling. They don't have a sense of their own emotions. It runs the gamut.
Yeah. But when you do get them, it can be a good way of engaging.
Absolutely.
If you feel something, it's like, and for me, Tom, what's happened is that it is an aha moment sometimes, the physical sensations. It's like, oh, because I can't hear it with my thoughts, with my cognition, but it's like, I remember one time in my life, maybe 10 years ago, there was a difficult situation happening with a family member. And I was just kind of like not sleeping, anxious, blah, blah, blah. And then one night I woke up and I could feel the lump in my throat. And I thought, and I just paused enough and I thought, this is because of this situation. This is everything. And I realized the emotion that was connected to that situation, the grief, the sadness, the forgiveness, the anger, that all of the emotions were tied and it was all coming in. So in some ways, when I felt that, it felt like a real gift to be able to identify it, because I think that's the problem sometimes when you can't identify what's going on, but our brain has the answers.
Yes, it does.
And it has the wisdom.
Yes, it does.
But then we have minds that can really take over a lot and dominate the conversation.
Yes. The sympathetic nervous system, we've talked about that. Flight or fight. Flight is avoid the sensed or perceived threat. And avoid can show up as run away, or hold really still and don't move, and then it won't see me. It won't get me. I'm just going to hold real still. Or I can't move. And my brain has just stopped my body from being able to move. Why? Because survival. Think about this. If an animal is being stalked, it may just freeze in place and the camouflage, it doesn't see me. That's just evolutionary. That's survival. We humans continue to do that and experience that. That's not a separate thing. That's just another way to avoid a sensed or perceived threat to well-being. How it shows up is very different than scampering away. But humans do that too.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we just been in a conversation and we freeze? Right?
Yeah.
Or we're in a conversation, but we are present. I'm just over someplace else consciously. I may be even talking, but I'm not engaged in the conversation. I'm not listening. You know when it happens, because if you're having a conversation with somebody, you know whether they're listening or not,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're present in the conversation or not. Again, sympathetic. Flight or fight, avoid. And if I can't avoid, and the avoid shows up as stress and anxiety, then I want to manage the situation. And the manage often shows up as depression or anger or some form of those. And we sense all those as emotions. Is anxiety emotion? Yeah. Is stress an emotion? Yes. Can you feel that on an emotive level? Yes. Can you feel that? And do you feel that on a somatic level? Yes. All of those.
Mm-hmm.
Because emotions just are.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really helpful to stop labeling them.
Yeah.
I mean, give your brain a break, give your body a break, and stop judging it. I'm feeling this emotion, therefore, what? I just am. And just let it be that. And then maybe take another step and be curious about it rather than reactive to it. In other words, what I'm saying is something, I sense it, I perceive it. That's either something that is parasympathetic, rest, relax, recover, digest associated, or it's protective in the sympathetic, and I sense or perceive it as a threat to well-being. Does that mean it actually is now? That might point me towards something that is unresolved from the past. Well, that's helpful to resolve it then and work toward it. That's what AHA is about. That embodied trauma, it just wasn't resolved in the past. It can be resolved, and the brain can do it in the present. So, yay, thank you, brain. Go ahead and do that. But it can be really helpful to just be present with the emotion and be aware of it and observe it without labeling it as good, bad, threatening, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because then if we are perceiving it as something that is threatening to us, we're sending a message to the sympathetic nervous system, and we get a heightened flight or fight reaction. It's a feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a mechanical feedback loop. It's a biological one. Something impacts, okay, the way I think about it can get involved, which is the other aspect of how we experience emotions, is because the emotions are consistent with how we're thinking about it. But that isn't just I think about something and then I feel about it that way. I may have a feeling about something before I'm even consciously aware of what I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. And that's the mixture of, it's more complex,
yes,
isn't it? This kind of linear pattern.
Yeah. We often have emotions and then think about the emotion. Does that make sense? Have you ever had just been aware that you're feeling some emotion, but you weren't thinking about it?
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about having that emotion.
Yeah, and sometimes the emotion comes first, and you're
Yeah.
like, why am I having that emotion? And then you get the cognitive, oh, it's because of that. And then you
Yeah.
find the answer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that other way around. Sometimes you you are thinking negatively or positively or hopefully or joyfully or whatever it is, and then actually you end up feeling that way because that's where your thoughts are going. But yes, it's a mixture. But the point, I guess, is that they're incredibly important. Like, they just, we don't want to overemphasize them or underemphasize them, but they are part of how we are and how we are alive and how we live in optimal homeostasis. So paying attention to them, having that curiosity, not labeling them, knowing that they can come before the cognitive or after the cognitive, knowing that the brain will engage with emotions too and give emotions to us. I think that's important because often we apply them to the mind.
Oh, yes.
Like even in the olden days, it hid the hysteria and like women who would go to the doctors, or there were all sorts of names given instead of anxiety, or it was just all, oh, you're overly emotional, or but there's a reason why emotions are present.
Yes, because we're living organisms and we have them because of that. Because organisms have that. If you've ever had a dog want to bite you, you know that another organism can have emotions. Or the tender ministrations of a pet that comes and just sidles up next to you and comforts you when you're upset. Sure. Because that's part of being alive. We, in our wisdom, think that certain things are good and certain emotions are bad. They just are. So one, just be present with it. And then two, be curious about it. Wonder why. Not curious, why is that? But just curious, why would that be? Here's the interaction. So cognition, we use the term as thinking, right? And the mind, so here's the brain, which is, again, not just in our head, down in our gut, all of that together, and the vagus nerve connecting the two between, and connecting to the part of the brain that's in the spinal cord. It's all brain, and we feel that. And we feel that and sense that. Some of that we think about, and that's cognition. So interoception is consciousness. I sense that I am. And then that can get into where Descartes comes in. I think, therefore I am. And the way I like to, here's my other version of Descartes' I think, therefore I am, isn't just existence. It's I think, therefore I am ... I think, therefore I am what? Safe? Not safe? Brilliant? Stupid? Successful? A failure? I think, therefore I am. Okay, so what? Does that make it the truth? Is that the reality? Or am I just making it up? So a helpful beginning place, again, I'm having these emotions, I'm having potentially these thoughts associated with what am I thinking and why am I thinking that? And then follow that up with, is that beneficial? Of course I'm thinking that. What I've learned, what I've experienced, all of that is rewarded and reinforced how and why I think what I do. So that's stage one. And then just say, so what? And then ask the question, is that beneficial? And whether you're being irrational or very rational, you know whether it's beneficial or not.
Yeah.
You do. You just know that.
So it really is kind of pausing. And, again, I think the reaction that people can have with emotion is on the spectrum. Some people completely, allow the emotions to take over them. Some people avoid emotions. Some people sort of try and suppress it. We all have different reactions to emotions. But I think the point is to engage with it and have that curiosity, because it can lead you to really having some clarity on whether that is beneficial or not. And I know for me, one of the things that's really helped me, I've had in the past a lot of anxiety that is very somatic, somatization, right? That's what they call it now. And so you're getting symptoms left, right, and center. And so for me now, if I get symptoms, I ask the question, how am I, what emotion I'm feeling? And if I can identify that anxious emotion, I'm like, oh, it's just anxiety. And it's a way in which I'm able to differentiate between whether something's actually wrong or something is it's just a product of an emotion. So I hope that helps our listeners. We've just scratched the surface there, but emotions are important. They interact with the brain, and they can be the source of letting you know what's going on if we just pay attention enough.
And where the minds, MINDS, comes in is the brain has a mind of its own, and I, as a function of the brain, have a mind of my own. And are these emotions a function of my brain's mind or of my conscious mind? That makes a difference too. Maybe we can unpack that the next episode. Yeah. Whose emotions am I feeling? Is it my brain's mind or my mind? And what do I do with that?
That sounds fascinating. Well, we'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Autonomic Homeostasis Activation Podcast. Join us next time as we continue in our conversations with Tom.
If you're interested in pursuing your own wellness journey, please check out our website, autonomichealing.org.
You can also reach out to Tom at innerworkings.org.